Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to PEBB and open enrollment. And we're here today to talk about the flexible spending and commuter accounts. My name is Linda Fries. I will be your host for this afternoon. I'm the benefits manager for PEBB. A little bit about the recording today. You will be able to text questions to us under the question area. Those come to just the PEBB staff that is online today to take in your questions and answer them. If you have a problem visually, you can't see the slides, or something happens with the sound and you can't hear me, you might want to log off and log back on again. Our communications team will be sending out, I believe, a copy of this recording after the presentation, and I think we'll also have it probably posted on our website, which is our state website for PEBB, so that people can go back to it and look up information if they need it. So with that, we're going to go ahead and begin. FSAs. I know that you guys have probably heard the acronym FSA, and we also have commuter accounts, but they're really kind of confusing because unless you know what you need and what you're going to use it for, I mean, it can be an area that you just kind of avoid or you stay away from it. But FSAs are flexible spending accounts. They're a year-to-year account. What that means, they are IRS regulated. It means that you have to come in each year during open enrollment and actively enroll in the account. That's one of the reasons why our open enrollment is mandatory each year, so that you would come in and you have to pick up the dependent care or the healthcare FSA each year if you want it. You use flexible spending accounts to set aside pre-tax dollars for expected expenses that are going to happen in the upcoming plan year. We have two different types of accounts. We have a healthcare FSA and a dependent care FSA. You do not have to be enrolled in a medical, dental, or vision plan under PEBB to pick up a healthcare or a dependent care FSA. But let's talk about the differences between these two FSAs, because this is the really confusing part for our membership. The healthcare FSA is for your deductibles, your co-pays, co-insurance, office visits, pharmacy, so prescriptions, medical, dental, vision. And it's health care for your family, your eligible dependents. So that means for you, for your spouse, for your children. The dependent care FSA is for child care, and that's where a lot of people get confused. They think that the dependent care is for the health care of their children, but it's not. It's for daycare. So daycare, after school care, preschool, nursery. So there's a fine line between health care and dependent care. So one of the main things I want you to remember is if you want a health care or a dependent care FSA for 2024, that means effective January 1st of 2024, you have to do open enrollment this month. If you fail to do open enrollment in October, you do not get to participate in an FSA for 2024 unless you have a qualified status change sometime during the middle of 2024. We allow open enrollment corrections, usually through February of each year. But this is going to be something that isn't correctable. So if you're like, oh, I forgot to do open enrollment in October, but I want to make a correction and I want to add an FSA, you will be told that you cannot do that. So again, make sure if you want an FSA, even if you're currently enrolled today in an FSA, you need to get in to do open enrollment because you have to make an active election for FSA each and every plan year. So how does it work? So the first thing that you have to do is you have to estimate your expenses. And I really tell people, be very conservative with your expenses. It is better to underestimate your expenses than overestimate them. These are pre-tax dollars that you're setting aside. They are use them or lose them accounts. And so that's why you want to be very conservative with your expenses. If you overestimate and then you have money in the account at the end of the year and you have nothing to claim for it, you will lose that money. So estimate your expenses. You're going to make a pre-tax contribution via your paycheck. So this money is going to come out of your paycheck pre-tax, which means it's not taxed. You will, throughout the plan year, incur eligible expenses. So the expenses that you estimated in number 1. You're going to submit a claim to ASI Flex. They are our vendor that handles the FSAs and the commuter accounts. And they're going to reimburse you for those eligible expenses. So that's kind of the whole picture on how it works. IRS regulated. So PEBB always is pretty lenient on corrections and mistakes and helping members out, but our hands are kind of tied with the FSAs and the commuter accounts. We can't be as lenient with these accounts. We have to follow IRS guidelines. So here's some of the guidelines that we have to follow. You have to enroll with a new election every year. So even if you're a new hire right now and your benefits are starting October 1st, or possibly your benefits are starting November 1st, and you make an FSA election right now, you're only doing an FSA election for October, November, December of 2023. You've got to get in and do open enrollment to make your election for 2024. You need to spend all of the funds during that year. So that's why it's so important on that previous slide that you estimate conservatively and as closely as possible. Expenses must be incurred during your period of coverage or plan year, especially with the healthcare FSAs. If you don't make a contribution in a month with a healthcare FSA, you don't get to put in claims for that month. But with the dependent care, Tammy, help me out here because we talked about this pre the webinar. They will be able to use it for the months for the whole year as long as they're contributing throughout the year, correct? Even if they're like a university person and they don't contribute during the summer months, right?
Yes, that is correct. If you're a university member and your pay is on a 9 or a 10-month pay schedule, you would not contribute into the FSA for the typically June or July or July, August, but you still have access to the full funds for the 12 months.
So some things to think about is that if you go out on leave in the middle of the year, usually your payroll will give you the option to discontinue your healthcare FSA and then you can pick it up when you come back. If you discontinue it while you're out on leave for 1 or 2 months, then you can't submit medical claims during that time. Also, if you are out on leave, and it's not the summer months if you're a university person, you're not eligible for the dependent care FSA because if you're out on leave, the government is assuming that you're home and you should be there taking care of your children. So some things to kind of think about with that. You don't have to be covered under PEBB's other health insurance plans to enroll in an FSA. You use these FSAs to pay for the expenses of your eligible dependents, your spouse and your dependent children. You cannot use the healthcare FSA for a domestic partner. So keep that in mind. Once you make these elections for FSAs and open enrollment is over with, we give you a correction period, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on, but it's going to be through December 8th this year. Once December passes, these FSAs are locked in. We can't change them unless you have a qualifying event sometime during the next plan year. You can access all the healthcare FSA funds up front. So if you say during the plan year 2024, I'm going to contribute $1,500 to my healthcare FSA, you can use all of that in January. If you have a surgery in January and you meet your deductible and your out-of-pocket max is coming in, you can go ahead and have access to all $1,500, even though you haven't made the $1,500 contribution yet. But we'll continue to take that out of your paycheck for the rest of the year. Unused funds are forfeited. So this is a biggie, and this is why you have to estimate very conservatively, because if you don't use these funds, you lose them. And then we have a grace period. Even though the plan year goes through December 31st of every year, we give you a 2.5-month grace period to March 15th to use up those healthcare FSA funds. If you haven't quite used them all up during 2024, you'll have 2.5 months a little bit later to use those up. Oops, let's go back. How to avoid losing money. This is a tough one. It's tough for the PEBB staff when somebody comes to us and they're losing money because something went wrong. And so that's one reason why we do these webinars, because we don't want to see people lose money. But plan for predictable and reoccurring expenses with your healthcare FSA. Maybe you know that you have pharmacy prescriptions to pick up every month, and that's $100 a month. So you've got $1,200 there. So plan for things that are predictable. Maybe at the end of this plan year, you're currently pregnant and you know that you're going to have the delivery and all of that coming up early 2024. That's pretty predictable. We've had people that have planned for fertility and putting back the max, and they have put back the max, and then they got pregnant on the first try and they wanted a refund back from the healthcare FSA, and we can't do that. So plan for things that are predictable and reoccurring, expenses that you know that you're going to have. Look at your prior year and use that kind of as a guide. Hopefully your prior year wasn't a bad year. Be conservative. I'm going to keep repeating that. Please be conservative. There are online tools at asiflex.com, an expense estimator, eligible expense listing. I know a lot of you are probably, I haven't looked at the questions, but I've seen them out of the corner of my eye asking for eligible expenses. ASI Flex is a fantastic resource for kind of giving you a really comprehensive list of things that are eligible. And then remember that you have an additional 2.5 months, so you'll have until March 15th to use up unused things. Any questions, ladies, that are coming in right now that we should pause and answer?
Linda, one is questions on the debit card.
Do you want to talk about the debit card?
Yeah, I can. So If you're new to a healthcare FSA and you've not had one or you've been enrolled in a healthcare FSA, but you've never requested an ASI debit card, those do not get automatically issued. You do have to go out to ASI's website and request. They have a form that you have to submit and request the debit card to be sent to you. Once you get the debit card, your funds are preloaded onto that card so that you can access it. But even though you have your debit card, you still must submit in your receipts to ASI. So you would swipe your card, but you would still have to, send in the supporting documentation to show that what you charged on that debit card are actual eligible expenses.
Okay, thanks, Tammy. Anything else that we should talk about? All right, I'm going to keep moving on. The healthcare FSA, it's $3,050 per subscriber, so that's the max that you can put back. We have some people that put the max back, and then we have some that just put very conservative amounts back. So let's talk about the healthcare FSA. You can use it for prescriptions, office visits, co-pays, deductibles, x-rays, lab, hospital, mileage to and from healthcare providers. Over-the-counter items like Band-Aids, sunscreen, braces, first aid supplies, pill holders, blood pressure monitors, thermometers, diabetic supplies, vision exams, eyeglasses, prescription sunglasses, contact lenses, solutions, reading glasses, LASIK surgery is another one, dental exams, x-rays, fillings, orthodontia, crowns, bridges, some of the things we don't want to talk about when we have to go to the dentist, right? Implants. So those are reasons why we would use it. Hearing exams, hearing aids, and batteries. So this is just a small list of why or how you could use your healthcare FSA. Remember, and I'm going to repeat this, healthcare FSA, this is for all of your eligible dependents. This is for your spouse and your eligible children, okay? So don't get this confused with the dependent care. Things that are ineligible with the healthcare FSAs, services that you haven't had yet, so pre-treatment estimates, cosmetic treatments or medications, general health and well-being, illegal operations, expenses paid by insurance, diapers, maternity clothes, insurance premiums, dancing and swim lessons, holistic natural remedies, vitamins, and warranty. So this is a small list of ineligible items, but it kind of gives you a flavor of things that would be eligible and then things that are not eligible. I see somebody's asking, are pet diabetic supplies eligible? I don't think that the FSA is going to cover items for your animals, but PEBB doesn't have it, but there is pet insurance out there that covers things like that. The dependent care FSA, it's a $5,000 maximum, and that's a family limit. So let me just pause and talk about that family limit for a minute. Let's say that both you and your spouse are PEBB members. Then combined, the two of you cannot contribute more than $5,000 to the dependent care FSA. You could do $2,500 and your spouse could do $2,500, but you cannot do $5,000 and your spouse do $5,000 because you've now doubled over the family limit. Let's say that you work for PEBB and your spouse works for Northwest Natural, and they also have a dependent care FSA. Again, you guys have to monitor each other because as a family, you cannot put more than $5,000 back into the dependent care FSA. So we try to run reports in our system to see if PEBB members have, we call it kind of double dipped by mistake. And Tammy's really good about running those reports and alerting people. But if one of you works outside of the PEBB umbrella, we have no way of knowing that. So that's kind of your responsibility to make sure. And it is $5,000 max per year for the dependent care. So dependent care FSA, babysitting while you work. So it's for dependent care charges or daycare charges while you're working. Preschool or nursery school for young children, before school or after school care, day camps for children under age 13. And it can be for a child age 13 plus if they're not capable of self-care. Sorry, everybody, I'm coughing a little bit. So let's talk about the dependent care FSA. Issues that we have seen people make over the years. If you're having a baby, wait until you're ready to put the baby in daycare to start the FSA. So let me talk about this scenario. Right now, today, you're pregnant and you're doing open enrollment. Do not enroll in a dependent care FSA yet. Wait, let's say baby's due in February. You have the baby in February. It's a fantastic delivery. Everybody's healthy. And on April the 15th, you decide that you want to, it's time to go back to work and you want to put the child in daycare. That's when you sign up for a dependent care FSA. We've seen a lot of people that are pregnant right now and they sign up for the dependent care FSA. Then they have baby and the other parent has decided that they're going to be a stay-at-home parent. And now they don't have a qualifying event to drop the dependent care FSA. If your daycare situation changes anytime during 2024, you have to let us know within 30 days of that daycare change. So we see a lot of this during the summer months where people will put so much money in because they start it January 1st and they're averaging in summer camp and full-time summer daycare and things like that. And then something happens in June and there is no full-time summer daycare. You have qualifying events. So if right now your daycare expenses, January, February, March, April, May, into June are $450 a month, that's what you should put back. And then in June, middle June, 1st of July, they go up to $900 a month because school's out. You have a qualifying event in June to up, and then August, 1st December, when summer daycare is over with and the rates go back down to $400 or $450 a month, you've got that 30-day window to adjust your dependent care FSA back down again. I know it's more paperwork on your side and you have to be on it, but it helps you in case situations change in the upcoming year that you were not being, you weren't prepared for. Make sure you turn in your claims timely to ensure you don't lose your funds. Especially with dependent care, I know when I was paying out daycare, it was such a huge amount out of our budget every month that I was turning those forms in every month to get that money back. But I have seen some people that wait until the end of the year and they turn those forms in, but then what happens is they miss the deadline date and they lose all the money that's in that dependent care FSA. So please be very aware of these accounts and that there are deadlines and there are parameters around them. And with the dependent care, the last thing that I have in bold here and in red, this is not for health care for your dependents. This is for daycare for your dependents. So ladies, any questions coming in right now? Tammy, Rhonda, nothing?
Lots about eligible expenses.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, I'm going to keep going. So compare the FSA to the tax credit. So we are not tax experts here at PEBB, but my understanding is if you take the dependent care FSA because it's pre-tax, then you are probably not eligible for the tax credit when you file your tax return. So I'm going to tell you to talk to a tax advisor with that one, but I do think that that is a caveat with the dependent care FSA. So ineligible dependent care expenses, services not provided yet. It's kind of like with the healthcare. If you haven't had the service yet, you can't turn in the paperwork for it. Educational or tuition expenses, so kindergarten or higher education, so private school, things like that for your kiddos, not an eligible dependent care expense. Overnight camp expenses, services provided while you're on vacation. I mean, come on, how many of you have taken a cruise and they've got the daycare on the cruise ship and you're thinking, I'm going to put the kids in the daycare on the cruise ship? Not an eligible expense for your dependent care FSA. I'm going to go back here. Divorce situations, only the expenses incurred by the custodial parent are eligible. So that's kind of key here. And again, expenses in excess of $5,000 per family are not eligible. Important dates. January 1st through March 15th of the following year is, so we have that 2.5 month carryover, or the months of your coverage. So those are the time period for your claims. So for the FSA, it's going to start January 1st, 2024. You'll be able to incur claims through March 15th of 2025. The deadline to submit claims every year, this never changes, is March 31st. That's the deadline. You can submit claims anytime. So you can do it all year long. But March the 31st is the absolute deadline. Don't wait till the last minute, because sometimes the ASI Flex website is so inundated because that's the last day for many businesses that they service. So they've got a lot of people coming in to their system submitting claims. ASI will send you a statement. Rhonda, Tammy, do they send it every month or quarterly? I think it's quarterly, right?
It is a quarterly statement.
Yes.
So they will email you a quarterly statement, and I believe you're going to have to log into your ASI account to look at this statement, but I'm going to urge you to do that because it's just a reminder that, hey, I've got money sitting in this healthcare FSA or this dependent care FSA. Don't just take those emails and put them in your junk or trash them. It's just your quarterly reminder that you've got some money in those accounts. So now we're going to move on to commuter accounts. PEBB also offers transportation and parking commuter accounts. So ASI Flex is our vendor. The FSAs that we offer are healthcare and dependent care. And then the commuter accounts that we offer are parking and transportation. So a little bit different. The commuter accounts are not as strict as the FSAs. We have a little bit more flexibility with them, but they are still basically controlled with IRS regulations. So pre-tax dollars. To pay for current month commuting expenses. So the parking accounts.
Linda?
This one, sometimes people get this really confused, but you're paying for parking at your place of employment or at a place from where you commute to and from work. So the majority of our space are park and lot, which we're seeing. Yes. Hi, does somebody have a question?
We're having trouble. You're choppy and going in and out. It sounds like I think we've missed most of that last slide you just did.
Okay, is this any better?
It sounds good right now.
Okay, all right. So let's talk about the parking and the transportation accounts, and let's talk about the parking accounts. If you are paying through your paycheck to your employer for your parking, then you might not want to have a parking account through ASI Flex and PEBB. So let me give you an example. When I worked in downtown Salem, I work remote now, but when I worked in downtown Salem at the Barbara Roberts building, a lot of people parked in the green lot. And I think it was $60 a month that was withheld pre-tax out of their paycheck. Because they're paying the state for their parking and the state's taking it out pre-tax, they would not want to have a parking account through us. Now, when I worked down there, I parked at the Lee Apartments, which was not a state-owned or operated parking lot. And I was able to Flex and PEBB to cover that parking because it wasn't a state-owned lot. So I know some of you are at universities, you're at all different employers throughout the state. So if you're paying for basically an employer-owned and operated parking lot, and you're paying your employer for that parking, this is not the account for you. But if you're paying for parking at a privately owned lot, then this might be the account for you. But you can't have both, just one. And then the next type of commuter account is the mass transit or the van pool account. And this is, we do have some people that van pool in, or they take the bus or the ferry or the train, or rail. But I mainly see like the bus or the train up in the Portland area. And we do have quite a few people that van pool in. So that would be the use of the transportation account. Okay, so how does it work? So you're going to choose one parking account. Again, if you park at a state-owned lot or an employer-owned lot, this is not the parking account for you. If you park at a parking lot that is not state-owned, this might be the account for you if you want to do a pre-tax deduction with your parking. Transit or van pool, If you incur expenses to commute to work, to and from work, you can set aside money for the transportation. We've had people ask before, can I use the transportation account to buy a bicycle because I bike to and from work? Or can I use it to buy rain gear while I'm biking, or a headlamp? The answer to that is no. We've also had people say, can I use it to pay for my own fuel to go to and from work or auto repairs? And or answer to that is no. So it has to be like a public form of transportation or van pool that takes you to and from work. So again, back to the IRS rules. Your election is month to month with the parking or the transportation account, which means you can start it any month that you want. You can end it any month that you want, but there's a little bit of rules around that. So we talked about open enrollment being mandatory, and you absolutely had to do open enrollment if you wanted a dependent care or health care FSA. That's not the rule for the parking or transportation account. So if you're currently enrolled in a parking or transportation account, that account's going to continue. You get in, make sure with the account works. You really want the claims to get reimbursed. Expenses must be incurred during your period of coverage. So if you ended the account today in October, and you would have 6 months to get claims in, you wouldn't be able to turn claims in for November or December or January or February. They would have to be during the months that you had the coverage. You can enroll, change, or cancel your election at any time, but there are some rules around it. You can be reimbursed up to the IRS monthly limit. Unused funds are forfeited after 6 months. So let me give you that example. It's October of 2023. If you decide today, I'm going to cancel my parking or transportation, you have December, January, February, March, April. You will have until the end of April to get claims in.
Linda, I'm afraid your audio is really having
For
trouble.
October 2023 or earlier, when you made those contributions. If you do not submit claims, so in a way, race with it.
Linda, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
We are really having audio issues.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but it's been really bad. It's been really choppy and going in and out.
I'm going to try to move to a different area of my house and see if that is any better. Tammy, do you want to talk a little bit about these accounts while I'm getting resituated?
Yes, I can. So for like dependent care in the IRS rules, or excuse me, for the parking and the commuter, it's really important to watch the amount that you're putting into those accounts. Once you deposit money into those accounts are non-refundable. So you don't want to have yourself gaining and over contributing with money that if you were leave your employment, retire, change positions, or stop parking and having claim expenses, you would have a large amount of money sitting in that account for transportation and parking that you potentially could forfeit because you've overestimated the amounts. The nice thing about commuter and parking and transportation is that's the only accounts that you can increase, decrease, or cancel anytime through the plan year. The important thing to remember is if you do cancel, the time clock starts ticking and you have 6 months to either reestablish the account, submit claims, or after that 6 months, you forfeit any remaining funds.
Okay, thanks, Tammy. Can you guys hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so the parking reimbursement account, that amount has moved up to $300 per month. You don't have to put $300 in. We have some people, I believe the minimum that you can put in per month is $20 per month. So there's different amounts that people will put in. So for parking, it's for non-state owned parking lots, parking meter expenses at or near your place of employment, parking garage expenses at or near your place of employment, and parking at a remote place where you commute in via mass transit. So again, just make sure the main thing with the parking is it's for a non-employer parking lot. So if you're already paying your employer for parking, this is not the account for you. And what we do have with some people here, so that their account doesn't go inactive, they drop their amount down to $20 a month just to keep that account active because they know they're going to come back to work and use it a little bit later in the year. And that way that 6 month clock that starts to tick doesn't happen anymore. So the transit or van pool reimbursement account, train, bus, subway, ferry, streetcar, van pool. Obviously, we don't have a lot of ferries in Oregon or streetcars, but the other areas, we do see a lot of people with the train, with the bus, and the van pool here in Oregon. And again, this amount is $300 per month. So things that are ineligible: parking or transit expenses that are not specifically necessary for you to commute to and from work. Parking at a state-owned lot that's already paid for from your paycheck. So we've covered that with a lot of the slides. Bicycle or repairs, Uber, gas or fuel vehicle repairs. So the claims, sometimes we've had people with parking that have paid the meter with coins and they don't have a receipt. So ASI has told them you're going to have to write out basically an invoice and turn that in as your claim. So we've seen that in a couple of cases, but that does happen. But usually they're looking for third-party documentation. So they're going to look at your receipt from your parking garage or where you're paying for the bus, you know, maybe a monthly bus pass, or your van pool. So that's what they're looking for in order for you to get the money back from these claims. Again, accounts with no activity for 6 months. No activity means no contributions, nothing for 6 months. Once 6 months happens, they are terminated and the balance is forfeited. So important for university members. Tammy, we updated the system this year, so it's kind of grayed out all their choices, right? Except what they had for this current year, I believe.
Correct. Yes, that is correct. So on the university, if you're currently in the system right now as a 9 or a 10-month pay,
I'll talk. If you're currently already enrolled in one of the accounts and you're a university member, and for 2023, maybe you marked and it's correct 9 months. When you go in to do open enrollment this year, that's going to show and it's going to be grayed out. So you would have to work with us or your university to get that changed if your pay months have changed since last year when you did open enrollment. And we kind of did that so that people wouldn't, well, we did it because after open enrollment last year, Tammy does a tremendous amount of reports that makes sure that we get all the university people in the correct number of contributions and months. And we didn't want it to get messed up again during open enrollment. So we thought we're going to lock it in because that's probably the way they get paid every year. So if something's happened and your pay has changed, let us know and we'll get that updated. But if it's like, nope, that's the way it is, then don't worry about it because everything's awesome then. But you do want to make sure it's correct. Go ahead, Tammy.
I was going to say, and also too, for the university members, we still will, or I will still send each university a report showing your enrollments and your total months that you are in. So if there has been a change to your pay schedule and you went from 9 to 12 or 12 to 9, it will also get caught up when the university sends back our audit report saying, no, you know, Jane Doe has now moved from 9 to 12 or 12 to 9.
Okay, thanks, Tammy. So corrections is just a really big thing when it comes to the FSAs. We don't see as many corrections with the commuter accounts, but FSAs is a biggie. So what happens prior to the new year? So prior to January 1st, 2024. PEBB and the agencies, we're going to adjust the FSAs for you. We want to get your FSAs correct. We're giving an internal deadline of December the 8th in our office. So that's a Friday, December the 8th, to get us correction forms. So this is, I did open enrollment. I didn't put the right amount into my FSA, or I enrolled in the wrong FSA. We're going to give you until December 8th of this year to get correction forms into us. Remember, no enrollment in an FSA if the member didn't do open enrollment. So that's not the correction form that we're looking for, because the ladies will tell you, we can't enroll you because you didn't do open enrollment. But the goal is to make sure that everybody understands, what did I enroll in, how much did I put into it, and what are the penalties if I fail to do the correct thing, or if I didn't enroll in the right account. So we started a process of a mailing that we do after open enrollment, and we usually get these out in the mail to you in November. So you do open enrollment in October. We get these letters out usually around Thanksgiving time to everyone. And we kind of just lay it out, like, you know, here's what you enrolled in, and we color coded them so that, you know, if you call into us and you have questions, we can be like, what color was your letter? So the healthcare FSAs go out on blue paper. The dependent care FSAs go out on pink paper. The parking account, commuter account goes out on orange paper, and the transportation commuter account goes out on green paper. So you're going, if you enroll in one of these accounts, you're going to get a letter from us. And we do, Cindy, correct me if I'm wrong, we do one hard copy, so one USPS hard copy letter, and then we also send an email out. And that's what you're going to get from us after open enrollment. So what do these letters or these communications tell you? They're going to tell you, hey, Linda Fries, you enrolled in this plan during open enrollment. So Linda Fries, you enrolled in a dependent care FSA during open enrollment. Here's what the dependent care FSA does. It's for dependent care daycare charges for your children under the age of 13. Well, if I'm reading that letter, I'm going to be like, but I don't have any kids under the age of 13 and I don't pay daycare. That should be a red flag. You're putting, you know, $300 per month into this account. How many months per year that you're contributing? You're going to do it for 12 months. If this isn't correct, here's what you can do to correct this. And if you fail to correct this, here's what happens. So we do these letters for a reason. We do it to protect you so that you read it and you go, wait, I shouldn't have enrolled in a health or a dependent care FSA. It should have been a health care FSA. I need to switch that. So that's what these letters are encouraging you to do. Or I didn't want to do $300 a month. I wanted to do $30 a month. So we're trying to get you to really read through these, make sure that you enrolled in the right account. So my staff gets hundreds of corrections during November and December for FSAs where people are like, I meant to enroll in a healthcare FSA, not the dependent care FSA. So we are very busy in our office November and December adjusting people's FSA accounts. But we're more than happy to do it so that when January 1st starts, you're not locked into the wrong account. So any questions, Rhonda or Tammy, that we need to stop and answer? Okay. So what happens basically as of January 1st? So the plan year has started, the IRS regulations are in place. All ASI flex issues will come to PEBB as an appeal. PEBB will not allow any cancellation or switching of a healthcare or dependent care FSA after 12/31 unless there's a qualified status change for cancellation. So if you come to us in January and you're like, I did not want to enroll in a healthcare FSA, we can't stop it. You are in the healthcare FSA for the whole year unless you have a mid-year event that happens sometime during the plan year. No retro enrollments or corrections to FSAs. This means that you could lose money. You know, maybe your letter came in and the letter said that you wanted to deduct $300 or contribute $300 a month. And you looked at the letter and you're like, yeah, that should be $30 a month, but you forgot to get a hold of us. And now you got your January 1st paycheck and you're like, oh my goodness, it should have been $30 a month, not $300. And you get a hold of us. We're not going to be able to make the adjustment for you because of the IRS regulations that are in place. No enrollments if the member did or didn't do open enrollment during October now, unless there's a qualified status change. So even if you did open enrollment in October And now you're like, oh, I don't see my FSA on my paycheck in January. We're not going to add it. So because the plan year has started and we are locked in with those IRS regulations. We will not do prospective increases or decreases, again, unless you have a qualified status change. The only thing that we will do is fix the number of months for those university members. So it's really a big deal when these letters start coming to you and the emails come to you during open enrollment or right after open enrollment that are like, here's the FSA account that you've enrolled in or the commuter account. Did you mean to enroll in this account? If you did and everything looks great, then everything's wonderful in the world. But if you didn't, get on it immediately and get that correction in so that you are enrolled exactly in what you want. Customer service, this is the ASI Flex website and their email and their phone number and their timeline. They're open from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific time, Monday through Friday, and 7 to 11 on Saturday. And this is our customer service information. During open enrollment hours, we are open 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. This has all of our information on it, our email, our phone number, our fax number, where you go to enroll, where you go to find the PEBB forms, and the plan information. Okay, everybody, that is my presentation. So we do have a few minutes. Tammy, Rhonda, any questions that you think we've got a few minutes that we can pause and we can answer those questions. So I'm looking at one person that's saying, what if I declared too much to be deducted? Again, if you catch it before the plan year starts, we will make that adjustment for you. But once the plan year starts, you are locked in with that amount. So that's why it's so important to review those letters, the hard copy letters that are going to come to you in the mail and those emails that are going to show up. Anything else, Tammy, that you think we need to go over?
I think just I would just reiterate again, the deadlines are really important, especially for, dependent care, healthcare. You have until 3/15 to incur those expenses, but it's vitally important to remember try not to wait until the last minute, because any of those receipts for your dependent care and your health care must be date stamp received at ASI by March 31st. Again, those are hard deadlines, so you could potentially forfeit money if you hold those receipts or, don't turn them in like quarterly or, every 6 months or once a month, something like that. So just important to make sure you put reminders up and get those receipts in prior to those deadlines. We hear so many people that, hold everything and then they forget and miss the deadlines.
Right. So one person's asking, what if my expected expense is disallowed? Well, if you are wondering, if you're thinking that you're going to have certain expenses next year, I would encourage you to go to the ASI site and look at things that are deemed eligible or ineligible. Also, remember that story that I told you about the couple that was going through fertility treatment in the upcoming plan year. So they put the max into the account, estimating that they were going to have a huge amount of medical expenses for the upcoming plan year. Then they got pregnant on the very first try. So all that money that they had going into the healthcare FSA, they didn't have to use. And they got a hold of us and they said, can we cancel the healthcare FSA now because we got pregnant on our first try? And our answer was no, we can't do that. So again, make sure that when you're trying to figure out how much to put into the healthcare FSA, that you are being conservative with your estimates. With the dependent care FSA, remember that you have a 30-day qualified status change window. So if daycare expenses are going up or down, make sure as mom or dad that you are on it to adjust, you know, your child's daycare costs and that dependent care FSA. So it's saying the site said that medical equipment is allowed, but particular model was not listed. I would encourage you to talk with somebody from ASI Flex about that, because we can't tell you about specifics like that. Where can you spend down your FSA account on approved items? So if you get to the end of the plan year and you've got money in your healthcare FSA, new reading glasses and prescription sunglasses and eyewear sometimes happen. Everybody gets an extra pair of glasses, or everybody gets first aid kits for Christmas. Those are some things to kind of think about if you've got money sitting in your healthcare FSA at the end of the year.
Yes, and ASI also has a FSA store. So if you go to ASI's website, you can go out to the FSA store, and there is so much stuff on the store that you can purchase. You just work with ASI and they can teach you how to, you know, access that and pay for it with your FSA. But the FSA store is huge for using those end of the year funds left over and be able to purchase other items so that you don't forfeit those.
Right. All right, well, I think we've gone 2 minutes past our time. We will be doing a webinar for FSAs after open enrollment to kind of talk about the cleanup and the correction period, and getting established with your FSA or commuter account. So I encourage you to come back to that. This recording will be posted on our website probably within a couple of days. You can get a hold of our staff, send us an email at any time, or give us a call during regular business hours, and we're more than happy to assist you with questions that possibly you didn't get answered at this webinar. And we thank you all for coming to our webinar today, and we are grateful for all of you, and we really appreciate you all, and we enjoy servicing all of you as customers, and we just thank you for your membership with PEBB. So thank you, and until next time, everybody.